you are watching this as a WISSOTA track and you were not on tonight, you better please let me know that you watched it and what track you're from, because I am recording this. This is a mandatory webinar that you have to be on. And if I do not hear from you that you watched it, your track will be fined $250. That is something the promoters voted on and agreed on, that these are important enough that we are going to make them mandatory. So please, if you are watching after the fact, you've got to let me know. Callie@wissota.org. Got to let me know that you watched it. Thank you.
Cool. So largely what we're going to go over is race management stuff. So, you know, week one with Ross, I think it was Ross. I don't know. Somebody filled in for me.
All four of them.
It was, so everybody had to group together into one group to be able to do what I do. I see that. That's value.
Yes.
But tonight we're going to go over race management, including the setup tab of an event, importing your results from live timing and scoring, creating your lineups, all of those types of things, connecting to Orbitz or Westhold. We'll go over both of those things, the lineup options to choose, adding points and pay schemes, basically everything you need to do to be able to manage that event, ending and culminating with the payments tab. So I'm going to jump right in. I see now that I have shared the wrong screen, but there is race management. So I've jumped right into the race management screen. Again, season management came first last week. If you got any questions about that, that recording is available. But we're going to jump right into race management. And the first thing that you see here is the setup tab. But this setup tab really is where you're just governing just a couple of different things here. One, you're able to govern how you want the pill draw to work. Now, by default, it's always going to be at check-in when you find a driver. You can change that, though, to have it auto draw before you find a driver, or to have it be some kind of manual entry process if you have some kind of lottery wheel or a pill draw or something like that you got going on there. You can do it that way as well. And then the other option you're going to set here is how you want the entry screen to handle transponders. You can either have it allow rentals, or you can have it not have rentals or no transponders. So I'm pretty sure most all of you use live timing and scoring, use either Orbitz or Westhold. So in that case, if you've got your own stock of transponders there, pretty self-explanatory. We'll use transponders. Again, you can set this for every class. So if you've got some classes that use transponders and some that don't, if you've got one class that you're going to have a lottery wheel pill draw for, a lot of different options here. But you know, pretty simple, straightforward stuff. From there, I'm going to jump to the end.
Sorry to interrupt. WISSOTA does recommend that you use the, which one is it, Austin? You want to go?
The auto draw?
Yeah, it's before driver selection.
Yeah.
So you draw, then you pick the driver. That way they can't say you're cheating at all, any way, shape, or form. Pick the number, then pop in the driver. That's the way we recommend that you use it. Now, if you do something different, perfectly fine. But this one really stops anybody from saying you're cheating, or you know who is, you've set the system up. So, yep. Sorry.
No problem. From there, I'm going to jump to the entries screen here. Now, in entries, this is where we're employing just what you're talking about, Callie. So I'm going to generate a pill. Now, if you've got a big enter key that the driver can click, great. If you've got an iPad that they can click the draw button, great. Otherwise, you can click the draw button. Doesn't matter how that works. 77. Pill draw numbers is 77. So now that it's drawn a 77, now I can go find the driver name. 3 different ways to find a driver. There's this My Competitors list on the left-hand side of the screen. Basically, all that is just a list of drivers who have raced with you before in that class or have registered with you in that class. So if you're going through registrations in MyRacePass, again, talked about that a little bit last week, registered with you in that class or raced with you before in that class, that's all this is. If you did a registration that is an event-specific registration, as opposed to a year-long registration that does come up, that is common, but we do have folks that do that. Then there will be a pre-entries field, and everybody who pre-entered for that race specifically will be here. But by default, it always comes to My Competitors, and that usually works just fine. Second way to find a driver is the scan barcode option at the top of the screen. If a driver claims their profile and then logs into the app with the same email address. They'll have a barcode in their app that you can scan if you've got a 3D scanner at the track. If you want one, I've got one that I recommend off Amazon. Cost me like $40. Works out really good.
Do you have a quick explanation for how a driver puts it on their phone?
Yeah, literally, it's just claiming their profile
Okay.
at MyRacePass.com. So I come here, I go to MyRacePass.com. I can search my own name. If I can spell my own name. There we go. And for me, it'll say edit now, but for a driver, it'll just say claim profile if theirs hasn't been claimed yet. They claim the profile here, then they put in their MyRacePass account credentials. They log into the app with the same email address that they use to claim the account. And then that's all they need to do. And then that barcode exists in their app in their menu.
When they come up and they don't have their card with them and they don't have anything with them, encourage them, make sure they have their profile claimed. They can put it right on their phone. Believe me, they'll have their phone with them if they don't have their card. And you can scan it or whatever put that number in right from their phone, and you're not going to mess it up. You're not going to get the wrong name.
If the average age of your driver is 75 or above and they don't have a smartphone, we also have these MRP cards. They say MyRacePass on the front. They've got a barcode on the back. They do the exact same job. Same thing, just two different ways to get there.
Every single WISSOTA driver gets one of those cards from the office.
So scan barcode is the second option. Third way to find a driver is just search. This is just a string of text search. So again, I can search my own name. There's my driver profile. Regardless of how you find the driver, it'll all bring you to the same place. Now, before we go that far, I want to let you guys know every driver who's ever raced at any track that uses MyRacePass or has registered with WISSOTA already to get their WISSOTA license will already have a profile. So the option of creating a new profile is available, but it should be extremely rarely used, you guys. It shouldn't come up very often. If it does, great, whatever, that's fine. The problem is that if we start creating profiles for drivers who already have profiles, then we start getting duplicate profiles. Your points are wrong. WISSOTA national points are wrong. I have to merge them together. I want to do real work. I don't want to merge profiles together. We can do that, but it doesn't help the cause. That's for sure.
If you guys are looking at national points and you see, and I'm going to throw a name out there, Shane Sobraski up here with a car number, and then down in like 150th, you see Shane Sobraski again with no car number. Somebody put him in again, and he's in the wrong spot. Some track put him in again. If you're going to look up, if this guy calls himself Ducky Anderson, but his real name is Robert, don't look for Ducky. He probably sent it to me. Sorry. He probably sent it. I get strange ones. He probably sent it to me as Robert. And again, you don't know if it's Robert or Bob or Bobby or Bobby Joe or whatever. So if you can't find him in here, the first question out of your mouth is, have you ever, from 2017 forward, have you ever been a WISSOTA driver? If he says yes, he's absolutely in this system. Do not make, please do not make a duplicate entry. They are an absolute mess for me and John Kimmis, who is my major helper in getting those out of there. I have to send every single one of those to support, and Austin or whoever has to undo them, merge them. So it really, by this time, if they have a license this year even, they're new, they're brand new, they're 14 years old. If they have a license, they say they've sent a license into WISSOTA. When I confirmed them, they're in the system. Do not look under last name, look under ask them how they sent it in. I don't care what you do. Don't make a new one. Thanks.
Yep. Yeah, the duplicate drivers are kind of a pain in the neck. Regardless of how you find a driver, this is the screen that shows up. There's a couple of pieces of information in this screen that are going to be useful. First one's the pill draw number. I moved to a different class. Let me go back to where I was, and it'll make more sense there. But as I jump in here, I can generate pill, draw, and close. And then when I go find the driver, the pill draw number will be listed in there already because we already did the pill draw. The pill draw number exists here already. Second thing here is car number. Car number is what it sounds like, the number on the door of the car. Just so you're aware, the program will not allow duplicate numbers per class, but it will allow letters or special characters. So if 223s show up, the second guy, you'll get an error message that says, hey, there's already a 23. You can put a star or an L or an A or whatever behind them. So if they say they're 5-star, you can put an asterisk and it works just fine. Third thing in here is car owner information. Car owner comes up in 2 instances. One, if you're tracking owner points at your track, I'm pretty sure that'll be fairly rare for the bulk of you guys. I don't think that happens all that often. But if you do track car owner, then every single driver has to have a car owner. Otherwise, the only time it comes up is if you're doing somebody other than the driver is getting paid for the night. Fairly common. You want to make sure you're paying the right person. The money's going to the right place. So you click the search button over here, and the search will show you basically a list of everyone who's ever raced in that class or who's ever been a car owner for that driver before. There's all of my previous car owners. I can jump over to all owners to search through the entire database of owners as well. So if in some magic world I ever raced for Casey Kane Racing, type it in, we're good to go. But otherwise, car owner stuff should be in there too. So you can either set it as default if they're going to show up every time in that class with the same car owner. And then the last thing here is transponder number. Transponder number, just what it sounds like. Type the number in. If they're using their own, you can mark it default so it shows up every time. If they're renting from you, you can click transponder rented and bring up, it'll bring up a list of all of the people who rented transponders in a report at the end of the night for you, so you know who to chase down.
If you have to put in an owner, it's somebody with a brand new owner, they've never been in there before, please make sure that you're picking a WISSOTA class. Yeah, show them how to do that once.
Yep. So we'll add team name will be, I don't know. There we go. It's basically the owner's name or the name of their LLC or the name of their business, whatever thing that they want to be on the check is what you're putting in there. And then you're adding a car for that team. So again, instead of just front wheel drive, choose the WISSOTA sanctioned class. So if I choose late models, I will choose WISSOTA late models because I can read, there it is, and then the number on the side of the car. So that's really all you have to do to add a new owner in there.
Every one of our classes are in there. Start picking them.
Yep. So there we go. Beyond that, there are a couple of other options in here, and I'm actually going to bring up a different entry screen too from a WISSOTA sanctioned track so you can see all of the stuff that Callie is serious about in here as well. But before we get there, lineup override exists here. Lineup override is just if you have somebody who, for whatever reason, needs to start at the back. So they come tell you I'm a rookie driver or whatever. You can start them at the back for heats or for all races. And then there's no reason to make anybody inactive. Payment amount, payment method, and contingency information you guys won't see unless you're on the partner plan. And right now, the only ones that use it are Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. So you won't see any of that. And then on the left-hand side of the screen here, you'll be able to see all of the registrations that they filled out that are pertinent to your event. So if they've registered at your track, it'll show here. If they registered with WISSOTA, it'll show here. All that kind of stuff. And now, this is what your guys' entry list will look like here. There's a couple more options here for licenses, and this has to do with the WISSOTA licensing process. If they haven't filled out a WISSOTA registration, so they don't have a license, these are some of the options that'll show up. Allow entry without a confirmed membership or purchase a temporary license. I'll let Callie explain the difference between the two.
Okay, very, very important, you guys, that you pick the correct one. Please slow down and make absolutely sure if that guy got a license that night. The allow without a confirmed license means that that person had to show you a receipt that they purchased it online 2 days ago, today, whatever it is. If they purchased a full license, but they're not confirmed in my system yet, it won't show them over on your left-hand side as being part of WISSOTA. Click that button. If you know that they're only going to be there one night and they just purchased a temporary license, check that one. If you check the wrong one, if he is a if he got a license, once I do confirm it, the check mark for my side comes off. If you click the first box, when I confirm it, the check mark and his name comes off my bypass list. If you check the wrong one and he got a full license, but you checked the temp license, that stays in there forever. I have to have MyRacePass manually take those out when I'm sure they've paid. So it makes it a real pain in the butt on the backside for me if that the correct box isn't checked. So if you can just hang out just a second, take some time, figure out what they do have, check the correct box. Thank you. That'd be great.
Cool. So I will add this driver to the entry list of my fake track here. And then actually, I'm going to change the way I'm handling fill draw because it'll make it easier for me to add 9 random drivers. So that's the process of entering a driver into an entry list. I said no duplicate numbers can be added on a per class basis. That's true for transponder numbers as well. You cannot have a duplicate transponder number on a per class basis. This will be a good example. It's going to give me an error. It says the number's already taken. There we go. Throw a B behind there and we're in good shape. Also want to make mention of the fact that all of the fake driver profiles that exist were created by the development team and not me. So I did not add all of these cat pictures. Cool. Give everybody a transponder number. And then all of the information that you're putting in here will sync with your live timing and scoring program. So whether you're in Westhold or Orbitz, you'll never have to enter the data, or duplicate that data entry process. All of it will sync over. And once we have lineups created, I'll show you how to do that. Fairly straightforward and easy process. So we'll say we've got 10 cars tonight. Those are the 10 cars that we're going to roll with. Next option here is the races tab. Now the races tab data you can enter before race night if you've got a pretty good idea as to what your format's going to be and how many cars are going to show up. It's nothing to throw 2 heat races and a feature in here and call it good. But you can also import previous data from previous races tabs that you have. So I come in here and I say, okay, last week I had 10 cars. That's the same thing. I'm going to run the same format. Of course, I've only run wonky formats here lately. There we go. 10 cars, 2 heats and a feature. I see that I did that for this event. I can just click that event and bring the data over in one click. So I can import my races tab data from previous events. That's a fairly new, I think, feature. Maybe it's existed a year, maybe a little over a year, but it is an option that you've got. The other things you can do on this screen is you can change the name of your races. So like if you've got the World of Outlaws there and they don't want to run a B main, they want to run a Last Chance Showdown, change the name of your B feature to Last Chance Showdown. If you want to call your heats qualifiers instead of heat races, change the name. They'll operate the same way, but the name of the race will change in app. You can also add sponsors to your heat races or any race that you run. So again, Lincoln Electric Time Trials, Bob's Garage Heat 1, H&H Mobile Home A Main, stuff like that. Put sponsor information in there as well. It's a really good way to sell app impressions to your marketing partners. Beyond that, you're also setting your transfers for these races. Transfers work 2 ways. You can see that there's a per race option and a from group option. Really all that amounts to is if you're using passing points or not. If you're not using passing points and you're just, bringing them in there per race, simple to do. You've got 30 cars that show up. You're going to take the top 20 to the A main. You might take 4 or 5 per heat race to the A, everyone else to a B. With 10 cars, I'm just going to transfer them all to the A, but that's how races normally work. I mean, that's a fairly straightforward, common practice. The from group option is used with passing points. That's what I'll do here. The example race that I'll run will be a passing points race, just because that's used a little less commonly. And so we'll do that here just kind of as a practice because I think most people are familiar with the per race option. And then if you are so inclined, you could also start them 3 wide with the lineup option here. And that is up to you. And that's the races tab. Straightforward stuff there. Now we'll jump into lineups. There's a lot of different ways to do lineups. Like there's over 100 different lineup options between our features and our heat races, and most of them are in the heat races. There's a lot of ways to do heat race lineups. So when I hit calculate lineups, there's a lot of stuff in here already. First off, you can see that there's a heats for WISSOTA option. That, if you click on the little bubble, will give you kind of details about what each lineup option is. This is your typical WISSOTA heat race point invert lineup that exists. Most people will use that. You can also line them up based off of the pill draw. You can line them up based off of qualifying. If you're running a 2 heat race format, there's a couple of options that we've got in here for 2 heat race formats. The most commonly used one is this carding 4-6-8 option. That will line them up the first round of heats based off of the pill draw, and the second round of heats will be an exact invert of that, of the starting order of the first round of heats. So if I started poll of heat 1 and there were 2 heats, then on the third heat, so heat 1 of the second round, then I would start the back of heat 1 because it's an invert. So a lot of different stuff there. If you're running some of those crazy formats, get a hold of us. We absolutely can help point you in the right direction. As you can see over in all lineups, like there are a lot of lineup options depending on what you want to do. Like we've got inverts based off of how much money they make. We've got point inverts for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks or the entire season, qualifying time, just all sorts of stuff. Crazy amount of stuff in here. So I can tell you that we more than likely can facilitate what you're doing. And if you're using the WISSOTA point invert, then it'll be pretty straightforward. You just pick WISSOTA heat and we'll be good from there. So that's what I've done. Now is the process of connecting all of this to live timing and scoring, because your heat races will come over, your entries information will come over, all of that. The first one I'll do here is in Orbits. Let me open up Orbits and open up MRP Live. MRP Live is the program that sits in between MyRacePass and live timing and scoring and allows the two to communicate with each other. I would highly recommend that you download it on the same machine that live timing and scoring is running on, whether that's Orbits or Westhold. Makes it a little bit easier for the data to go intra-network as opposed to inter-network. And then, that's what I would recommend to do here. So when you open up MRP Live, there's the download link down here, download application, open up MRP Live. The only piece of information that you need from this screen to get connected is this connection code. So I can copy and paste it into this box here. And actually, if you click Launch from Web, MRP Live will open with that connection code already built in. In Orbits, all you would need is, out of this distribution tab, the IP address and the port number. The port number is almost always 50,000. I think I've seen like 2 instances in 2 years doing this where it's not been 50,000. It's just usually what it is. And then the IP address obviously is going to be based on what computer you're using. So if you're using the same computer for Orbits all year, that will never change. So your port number will never change. Your IP address should never change unless you switch machines. So all you have to worry about is that connection code, and now I can connect. I press Get Lineups, and now as I come over here to the registration tab, let me quickly delete the last time I did a fake race here. Cool. Now I can import my groups and runs. Let me re-get lineups here. Now I can import my groups and runs. The groups, you should only ever have to import one time because that's just the class data. So as I've imported the groups, I've only got one class that I've got entries for in that race. All the car numbers are here, all the names are here, all the transponder numbers are here, all that stuff is built in. But every time you have new lineups, that's when you import the runs. So if you've got heat race lineups done, import groups and runs, we're good. Then when your heat races are done, you go in and you checker flag the heat races, and then you can go ahead and re-push the Get Lineups button and re-import runs when you get your feature lineups created. So that's how that works. Now, I'll close Orbits, and let's see if I can easily disconnect and go to Race Manager. I've never tried to do both at the same time, so we'll see what happens. The only difference is that this bubble for Race Manager has to be checked instead of the one for Orbits. So in Race Manager, your IP address is listed here under Network Broadcast Control. Your port, again, is 50,000. It's always 50,000. It should always be 50,000. Now when I connect, I can get lineups. Again, I've never tried this at the same time. Let me quickly delete the last time I did a fake race in here. Okay, get lineups. There we go. My competitors list is here. My Heat 1 and my Heat 2 are all ready to time. So however you're connecting, whatever you're connecting to, we can facilitate that. So I'll do the rest of the race in Westhold because I'm already here. Now, demo mode in Westhold will only allow for 10 cars on the track. Because my heat races are 5 cars, I'm going to show you how to manually score these races as though live timing wasn't working.
Just so you know, I don't know that any of us have Westhold.
You guys are pretty much all orbits?
Yep.
Yeah, now you tell me.
You didn't ask.
But to manually put in the results, pretty straightforward. Click on the name on the left in the order that they finished, or you can type the number down here and press enter. Either way, when you get to this point, you can click and drag. So click and drag them around. Mark your DNF, your DNS, your DQ, or your black flag. If you're running a passing point show, and the driver elected to start at the tail, you can not award them passing points, but just finishing points with the NPP box. That'll give them their finishing points, not their passing points, if they chose to start at the back.
That'll also be done if they got there late. If they got there late, didn't make draw, they get no passing points.
Here we go. So jump into Heat 2. We'll say that's how they finished, and we're good to go. Back into lineups here. We'll calculate our new lineups. Again, opening night A feature for your regular WISSOTA stuff. Basically is a draw-redraw show. WISSOTA point average exists here as well. So those are easy options for you to find. I'm going to use passing points, though. So Heat passing points and calculate. Now, I've got a ton of passing points options built in here. You guys will probably have like 1 or 2 maybe. But there are 2 that are already built in here from WISSOTA that, WISSOTA recommends and utilizes. Basically different amounts of passing points, different amounts of finishing points for whatever option that you choose. I don't know if either option is mandated for what type of show, Callie. So is there any rule about what they have to pick if they're going to do passing points?
Nope. 1.76 is what we use at the WISSOTA 100. 2.25 is what we use for the challenge series, and it's always up to you guys. 1.76 is my understanding is for the a whole bunch of cars that like the WISSOTA 100. 2.25 is makes it a little bit different if you're running like 8-10 car heats and there's not as many cars at the event.
So I'll choose that and calculate. Now, however you calculate lineups, there's always a how was this calculated link at the top of the screen. This is extremely valuable for passing point shows because I can click this link and it will give me the number of passing points that each driver received. And because my tiebreaker was the pill draw, it'll also give the pill draw right over here as well. So if somebody comes to the booth and says, I should be there instead of there, this guy, how could they get more points? You can literally show them the points if you want to. There's also a report that you can run out of the reports tab called passing points. And I'm an announcer. That's what I do outside of MRP. I'm an announcer by trade. So I literally will have this screen up during the heat races. And then when I know the results are in for a heat, I'll just refresh this page. And that way I can give fans the current passing points over the PA. If you want your announcer to do that, great. If you don't, that's fine too, whatever. It's just an option that you've got available. This report's always here. But I've got new lineups. So I will press the Get Lineups button, pushes the information into Race Manager. I come back into Race Manager. Now my A feature is here, and it's ready to be timed. I can pre-start, and I can start the race. While this fake race is running, I will jump in here, if I can find the right window. And I'm going to show you one other thing that we've got available. There's a lap viewer up here at the top of the screen. So you can actually get live timing and scoring on your browser right here, as long as you can log in as an admin. All the same features from the app exist here as well. There's a lot of different views. Because I'm in a demo network, it's not showing me all the views. The views will be your running order, your best lap, self-explanatory. We built new ones in there for positions gained. I think that existed last year. But now we have laps led, average lap time, and then the average lap time over the last 3 laps. So again, Your announcer wants to be able to give more information. We've built out a way to do that. So you can do those things. Click on a driver's name. It'll only show you information for their most recent crossings. And if you click on this button up here, it'll only show you the most recent crossing, which really only is going to help you during qualifying. But during qualifying, it's super simple and easy. But let me.
In WISSOTA, we don't do qualifying, but can you explain a little bit, question here about the DNFs and stuff, bringing it over from orbits?
Yeah.
It doesn't work, and how you bring it in, how you can bring it in from orbits really quickly.
Yep. So in live timing, whether it's orbits or Westhold, works the same way. You finish the race, you stop the race. The checkered flag, the stop sign, you do that, and the race is over. From there, it doesn't matter what button you click, whether it's this MRP Live button or the link at the top of the screen, the results are automatically ready to come back to MyRacePass. So there they are. My results are in. That's all you got to do to bring them over. Click that link. Now, this driver finished third, but his transponder stopped working. Easily drag and drop him up to third. So you can adjust these things. This is, again, also where you're going to mark your DNFs, your DNS, your DQ, or your black flag, or your no passing points, all that kind of stuff, and we'll save as completed. So the process isn't much different than manually doing it. It's just being able to bring them all over at one time is really handy, especially when you start to get fields like above 14, 15 cars, instead of having to hand score, and then it just works a lot easier this way.
The only thing is, when you bring it in that way, if you had somebody that didn't finish, you have to manually put that in. It does not bring that over from orbits or Westhold.
Yeah, if they never showed up on the racetrack, then you'd have to bring them over. Yep. Then you have to meet.
Yeah, but you have to make sure that you DNF them as they went out. As the other system has it, because it won't show it on this side.
Yeah. Other options here. There's a share button, so you can share all of your lineup and results data to social media if you want to with that button to Facebook and Twitter. There's also a media format button. I really only use this for one thing. I copy the results out of here and then paste them on the bottom of a news article. So that way, when I'm typing out a post-race recap, I can have the full results at the bottom of the news article. It's really all I use this for, but it is a string of text for the lineup and result of each race. And from there, that's by and large a race in MyRacePass. You've done your entries, you've done your lineups, you've done your results. Before I get into points and pay and those types of things, I really kind of want to open it up for any questions that anybody might have about anything that we've covered with the entries, the lineups, and the results parts of things. So if you got anything, feel free to unmute and shout it out.
Anything, you guys? He's kind of a car salesman, Austin.
No.
You talk 100 miles an hour.
I do not. I will admit to being an announcer primarily for sprint car races. That's where the speed comes into play. At no point am I interested in selling you anything. That's Chris Krug's job.
Anything you guys missed on that, or things that you need to know? Stacy did ask why the transponder, why it doesn't bring over the DNFs and stuff to MyRacePass.
If the car, so it'll bring over DNF cars because they started to register. It won't bring over DNS cars because they never tripped the transponder loop in the first place. So the live timing scoring has no idea that they're out there.
It was always the fact that it will bring, maybe it's changed, but it will bring over 1st through 10th, but it will not check the DNF boxes.
Right.
Yeah. So how come it won't do that?
Just because that's not a point of data that their API sends out through the port. So they just,
Yep. It's just not a thing. Those two just don't talk in that fashion, I guess, right?
Yeah. So if you've got a DNF, it'll bring them over that they finished at the back, but you just have to check that box.
Make sure you are looking and checking the box, because that'll make a huge difference in your future lineups for these races. So know that does not do that. You have to do that yourself.
Yep. Cool. Then I will jump ahead then to points and pay. So there's a points and pay tab here, but before we get there, I'm going to jump up to settings in the upper right. There is a points and pay schemes area that I'm going to show you. And this is basically where you're setting your point scheme and your pay scheme. So there is a global scheme for WISSOTA National Points. So when you're talking your track points for your championship, how you're going to end of night points and those types of things, if I go in here to add a scheme, I can go to global and I can choose the WISSOTA National Scheme for points. This is also where you're choosing your lineup options. So if you're going to run passing points, the WISSOTA passing point schemes are here as well. But I mean, if you're just doing WISSOTA points for everything, really simple and straightforward. Don't have to think or try hard. You do have the option to create your own custom schemes if you'd like as well.
Yep, you don't ever have to touch the points. That's all hard-coded into the system, so you guys don't have to worry about it. The one thing you do have to worry about is you guys that run dual sanctioning. Make absolutely sure that you're picking the WISSOTA point scheme, because I've had people send me crazy points before. So.
Yep. This is also where you're setting your schemes for payouts. I've got a ton of them in here, so I'm just going to edit an old one. But it's the same process. You add a scheme, you click payouts, you name your new payout scheme, and then don't check the box that it's for drag racing, because that would be bad. So I'll just put one in here. Edit. This is what it looks like when you're adding in a scheme. So this is for points, payouts, whatever. It looks the same. Here we're doing one for payouts. First, you're setting how much you will pay for show-up pay. If you're going to do that, start pay or non-start pay. So everything DNS will get the non-start pay. If you take any green flag, you'll get start pay, obviously. And then putting in payout information for each kind of race that you run. I've got an A feature position pay in here. You want to add more places, I can add, 3 more places at $40 a piece for everybody that is, 21st on back. Really simple and straightforward process there. Again, you can modify these things based off of the modifiers that you put in results. So if you're going to get full points or pay for DNFs, nothing for DQs, nothing for DNS, full for black, whatever you want to do there. Again, if you check this box, then anyone who runs the A feature will not get paid to show up.
Sorry, WISSOTA dictates that if you get DQ'd, you get no points. That is in a being light at the scale or conduct. You get no points.
That counts for pay as well?
Points. They can do for...
You can do whatever you want with pay, but
you can do whatever you want with pay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the point scheme will do it for you automatically. Again, you don't have to worry about that.
Yep.
So you can add any kind of race that you run. You can add payouts for, but we can go in here and save. And now in my event that I had, I go to the points and pay tab. I can add a points and pay group. For my point scheme, I'll choose the WISSOTA National Scheme. You'll probably never deviate from that unless you have a class that is not sanctioned by WISSOTA. For the pay scheme, put in whatever pay scheme you want. I've got a ton in here. You might not, whatever else. I'll just choose this random pay scheme. Apply it to whatever schedule you have created in season management. This is also where you can decide if the points apply to competitors or owners or teams or all or 2 of 3 or whatever. And then we'll go ahead and add. Now, once they're added, you can still adjust this stuff, but based off of my finishes here, my WISSOTA scheme already built in the points. I don't have to think there. Everything's good. For payouts, the payouts exist here already because of my payout scheme. Now, there is an adjustment box for your payouts. So if you want to give somebody a bonus or you want to dock somebody's pay for whatever reason, I don't know, whatever you want to do there, plus or negative works in the adjustment box for payouts. But again, you can apply points, or you can apply pay, to any kind of race that you run. WISSOTA gives everybody 11 show-up points, and we're all good to go there. If you find out that something is wrong and you want to change it, do not use the add additional points or pay group, because then you'll have 2 payout groups for that night. And 2 payout groups for that night usually ends up just being a duplicate of what you already wanted to do. And now your 1099 report is off at the end of the night. So if you find out something is broken here or something is wrong here, I usually have folks recalculate their points and pay as opposed to creating a new group. But if you've gotten into a situation where you think something might be wrong and you're a little confused about it, honestly, the best step one might be to send an email to support@myracepass.com and get us involved so that we can steer you in the right direction.
We have had some people find out the hard way that not to use that. Can you show them quick how they can tell if they messed up and did that?
Yeah. And actually, that'll come into play here. I'm going to press
Okay.
Create Payments. Create Payments is what pushes all of the payout data into our 1099 report that'll give you all the payout data at the end of the year and to the Payments tab of Season Management. Payments tab exists here. So what's going to happen is if I've created a new group instead of recalculating, when I come to payments, what's going to happen is that I would actually have two payment groups for the same event, for the same class, and my 1099 report would think that every driver, you know, if winning is worth $600, it would try to give them $1,200 for that night because there's two payment groups. That's why we recalculate instead of adding a second payment group. That's the issue behind it. From this payments tab, you can do a couple of different things. You can create checks. So if you're going to print checks directly from here, put in the starting check number, put in the check layout that you've got, press create. And you can start printing checks. Printing checks directly out of MyRacePass seems like kind of an extra step, but I tell you what, it saves so much time. We started doing this at the track that I work at. We actually got the signature and a rubber stamp too. And the biggest pain in the neck part of a race night, signing all those checks or stuffing all that cash in envelopes and all that kind of stuff, man, you can make that take 2 minutes. Beyond that, you can also print a report that will show you what everybody made for the night. So it'll show you all the payees on the left-hand side of the screen. If the payee is a car owner, the driver's name is listed in parentheses, what they were owed, what they were paid, and white space in the middle here. So if your drivers need to come sign for their checks, this is how I have my drivers sign for their checks. They sign the white space, we're good to go. One more piece of efficiency. You can also print mailing labels from this screen. So if you've got all your registrations in, you can put all the addresses on file, all that kind of stuff. And then you can print mailing labels. So if you send out your pay during the week after race night, you can print all the mailing labels out, put them on envelopes, and send them out. And then you can also export all of this information into QuickBooks. There's a QuickBooks Export button right here, and you can send that all to QuickBooks if that's what you use for your financials. And then you can shut the lights off and go home. I know that's not how that goes. But that's really what I've got for you guys tonight. The race management is what I wanted to cover. That's what we've got here. I really want to open it up for any questions you've got about any of that stuff here, and make sure that I can, get everything in before we end here, so you guys feel like you're prepared.
A couple things that I noticed while we were going through with the pay. How do you make sure, like, say you have a B feature, top 4 out of the B feature goes to the A. You don't want to pay them for the B feature, then you only want them to get paid for the A feature. There's something that you click there to make sure that on that scheme, they're not getting paid.
Yeah, if I create a scheme, I don't know if I've got a B feature, this one I don't. I'll add a breakdown for a B feature. B feature down here. There's an option here to exclude transfers. So if I exclude the transfers to the A feature, then those drivers won't see anything in this tab. Basically, they won't see anything in the screen. And what you start your pay at here will be basically your first non-transfer car. So that exclude transfers button is the key here. If you're creating B feature points, or payouts, excuse me, make sure that the guys that transfer to the A aren't getting double paid, basically. Exclude transfers is the way to do it.
And you will see when you go in your points and pay and you calculate that, make sure that in the B feature, your top 4 or however many show as 0 pay. You'll be able to see it, look it over before you do anything with it.
Yep.
There are ways also to create special lineups. I know How do you do that?
When you're talking special lineups, are you talking creating your own passing point scheme?
John Kimmis, if you're on, he uses special lineups a lot. We have a challenge series race that we run 2 features for. They run 2 features, and he uses a special lineups something. Maybe we can go over that quick next week or something. I'll get some more information on that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and that's when I'm going through these trainings with tracks, what I tell them is if you're doing something out of the ordinary, first step, jump into the sandbox and see if you can make it work. Second step, get me the specifics of it, and I can point you in the right direction. It's honestly my favorite part of the job is figuring out how to make strange lineup works. So send them to me. And usually, I mean, the one-off stuff, it doesn't really do a lot of good to share the one-off stuff with everybody. If you've got a one-off deal, send it to me, and we'll go through it together and see if we can figure it out.
Right. Also, something to remember at the end of the night. You calculated, you think your night is over. You're walking through the pits and you find out that you messed up the zeros. 0M was supposed to be second and 0 was supposed to be sixth, and you have it turned around. Shoot. You go back to your computer, you get back in there to your feature finishes, and you go back in here, you fix them, everything's good, you fix your feature, your results. Do not forget to go back into points and pay and recalculate that. The points, nothing is going to be correct. If you change anything, nothing's going to be correct unless you recalculate. And when I tell you guys, when I send you guys an email and tell you to recalculate something, make sure you are recalculating. So that's a very, very big step. Also, right here, go right back, Austin. Right here, where you can see their names and it says points and pay and they're check marked right there. If you have a driver that got DQ'd for the night because of conduct, he gets no points. If something like that happens, all you do is unclick his name from the points and it will give him no points for the event. That's way easier than trying to adjust points or anything else. Just unclick his name if he's not getting any points because he did something wrong. If you did adjust something, you went in and minus 12 points or something, and you found out that wasn't right, go over to the left there where Austin was. Throw that up there again. Sorry.
You're good. Uh-oh, now my computer's going slow. Gosh darn it. My wife just got home and turned on Netflix, and now my internet's going sad. There we go.
Okay, over to the left. Clear point adjustments or clear pay adjustments before you go in and recalculate. It's going to keep those adjustments until you clear them, no matter what you do. So hopefully that helps. Anything else? Look over to the right here. Do we have any questions we haven't answered here?
I know Dakota's been monitoring the chat pretty well.
Okay.
So
Dakota, you got anything you want to bring up?
I think I've covered most things, except there was a couple questions directed towards you on WISSOTA items that I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
I think you caught most of them. Okay.
Not sure what Trisha meant by wouldn't that driver be DQ'd instead of just points taken away? And that's correct. DQ him, and then, but they'll still, if you do that, if he gets DQ'd for conduct and you're trying to take all his points for the event, if you don't uncheck that, he'll still get show points. Yeah. Show points do not go away. So if you DQ'd him for conduct, no points at all for the event, go unclick him on that screen, and then even his show points will be gone. It's the only way to get rid of show points without adjusting. And I would rather you guys don't even touch that adjustment on points at all. Anything else?
Trish asked one more question there. Does the driver that finished under him gain the points?
He should be at the bottom anyway if he's DQ'd for conduct. You should have dropped him to the bottom to move everybody else up. Say he got, I don't know, say he got third, but he flipped out afterwards and went and ran into somebody. Okay, you're out of here, DQ'd for conduct. Put him at the bottom, move everybody else up, and then go uncheck his name so he gets no points whatsoever. Even show points are taken away.
Yeah. So if I go to results and that happened and the guy who finished third got DQ'd, you mark DQ and save, and it'll already push them to the bottom. So if you know he got DQ'd, it'll work. It'll push him to the bottom.
Okay. Yep. And if he got DQ'd for anything but conduct, don't do anything. You do not have to uncheck it. Don't do anything. The system knows exactly how to process this. The only difference is if it is for conduct, because he gets all points taken away. There is a question on a DQ whether they get their points taken. If it's a light at the scale, they only get their points taken for that race. So if it's in the heat, doesn't really matter. They just have to start in the back because they were DQ'd. If it's in the feature, they will get their feature points taken. That will revert to a 45 event points. Hopefully that makes sense. If he's DQ'd for conduct, you want all of his points taken. If that's confusing and anybody has some questions on that, get a hold of me. Because that's the one thing in WISSOTA with our points that is rather confusing.
Brenda, to your questions there on the pay, there's no problem with paying the next race. You're worrying about the dates there. My biggest suggestion would just be to make sure that you're always printing them on the same day. So if you're going to pay the next week, print them on, say, Wednesday nights, and then you know what date would go to what race.
I would be careful watching videos. I would tell them the results are the results. I'm sorry if you saw that he was 1 inch ahead of you or something. Just be careful with that. And know that this year I am going to try to do points on Wednesdays instead of Thursdays. So try to have your stuff done, checks and everything by Wednesday. If you're a track that isn't going to do that, let me know so that I'm not locking your system before you're done with it. Linda.
Yeah, I just had that question about just a reminder about so if somebody buys a temporary license, the points are automatically taken off of there. We don't have to worry about it, or do we have to do something?
Nope, you don't have to do anything. The system, he doesn't get acknowledged in the system or in the points, so you don't have to do anything, but we don't do anything like move anybody up or anything. He still takes that place. He just doesn't really take points for it. So but he uses the points, but he doesn't get them. The next guy, you don't move anybody up or anything. So just leave it alone if he does do a temp license.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that hadn't changed or anything.
Nope, not at all.
I think that covers most any of the questions from the chat.
Okay.
Cool.
I think we're good.
All right. Well, again, everybody, I really do appreciate you taking the time, sit through and, engage and talk about these things. We're going to do the last one next week, Thursday. I don't know if it'll be me, but it'll be somebody from MyRacePass. I'll be in North Carolina at a drag strip of all places. But I don't know how the straight line thing is going to go. We'll see. But either way, we're going to take a look at some website tools. We got a little presentation on fantasy. We got a lot of things planned here for next week. I appreciate everybody taking the time here today. If you got any questions that you think of after this, send them to support@myracepass.com. And beyond that, we'll see you all later.
You can also get a hold of me, email me. If I don't know the answer or it's an elaborate answer, I'll send you on to Austin. Otherwise, thanks again, guys. Great showing. I appreciate your time.